everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you're new around here, my name's Sam. I am mum of two, Élise who is 2 and Elliot who is 5 months old. This video is telling the story of Élise's labour and birth. So I'll start right at the beginning with my very first contraction. So I remember it was Saturday night, the 10th of January. I'd just got into bed and it was 10 o'clock on the dot. I felt my first contraction and I knew it was different because I've been having Braxton Hicks from mid-20 weeks. And this one wasn't just a bit period painy. It was like somebody had fastened a belt right around my back and my tummy, and then the tightening feeling come right around from my tummy all the way around my sides and into my back. It lasted for about 20 to 30 seconds. I knew it wasn't nothing major at that moment in time, but I did know it was a real contraction. I felt it was the start of things happening. So I got out of bed again, I went downstairs and got on the couch and I started to time my contractions. And I think they ranged from that very first one, they carried on every 10 minutes and eventually they were between 7 and 10 minutes. This carried on all through the night and into the morning. Then on the Sunday, this is obviously the day after, I tried to keep as active as I possibly could. I was up walking around, I didn't really lie down, I didn't sit too long, I didn't go and have a soak in a warm bath. I didn't want anything to try and slow it down. If it was starting off, I wanted things to start to progress. So I remember me and Danny went over to my mum's for a Sunday dinner, and I remember contracting in the middle of my dinner after having to get up and keep walking around and walk these contractions off, still timing them. And they carried on that way, probably every 7 to 5 minutes then. It carried on through Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, and then Sunday night. That I did notice the intensity of them started getting a little bit stronger Sunday evening. And around about, I'd say between 10 and 11 o'clock at night, I felt they were getting quite strong. I phoned the midwives at my local hospital and they said if I wanted to carry on as I was at home, it was the best thing to do. I was in my own environment, so I'd be more comfortable. Take some paracetamol, have a lie in a warm bath, keep timing the contractions and go in either when they were every 3 minutes or when I started to feel like the pain was just a bit too unbearable and I needed some extra help. So around 12 o'clock it was, I didn't get in a warm bath, I still carried on. I had my birthing ball, sitting on the birthing ball in the living room, had the telly on, and I just kept drinking water, keeping myself hydrated, having little snacks when I could. And I sent Danny to bed about 12 o'clock because I had a feeling it was going to be a long night, or well, not a long day, the day after. So I sent him to bed, carried on timing my contractions, and then they got to a point at around 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, where they were every 10 minutes. They were lasting every time over a minute, and they were very, very strong. And I remember thinking to myself, I was kneeling down on the floor, crouched over the couch, rocking, and I had my head into the cushion. And this one particular contraction, and as I was rocking my way through it and trying to deal with it, I thought, I think I need to go into the hospital now, because it wasn't so much that I couldn't deal with the pain, but they were every 3 minutes, they were regularly every 3 minutes, they were lasting over a minute. The pain was very strong at this point, and it's my first baby. I don't know what's going on, I don't know what to expect. It was a little bit scary, and I thought, I'm sat here on my living room floor on my own, I think I'm best off going to the hospital. So I woke Danny up and we got to the hospital about 3:30. I got put onto a monitor and the midwife come in and examined me, and at this point she told me that the good news was my contraction intensity, pain-wise, was probably at its peak. I was feeling the most strongest contractions I was going to be feeling. The pain wouldn't get much worse than that. It was pretty It was pretty intense at that time anyway. But I was only 4 centimetres dilated. So I felt a bit disappointed. I didn't really know what that meant. So I was just like, right, okay, so I'm 4 centimetres, I'm a staying, I'm a going, I don't really know what to do. How long is this going to take? She told me that because it was my first and they were very intense contractions, they were very regular, that she wasn't happy for me to go home. They wanted to keep me in and monitor me, thinking that it was going to progress pretty quickly. So this little man's just woke up from his nap, so he's going to join us for the rest of this video. So, where was I? So the midwife said she wasn't happy for me to go home. She wanted me to stay and be monitored, with it being my first baby and my contractions being so close together and very intense. I ended up being put onto into one of the beds on the ward, and that was 5 o'clock in the morning, and Danny got sent home. So the midwife came and gave me codeine and paracetamol and told me to try and get some sleep. I was never going to get any sleep because I was still contracting every 3 minutes. Sometimes it was going down to 2 minutes. They were very, very strong, obviously very close together. They were lasting about 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes. That was 5 o'clock in the morning. Danny got sent home. I got a little bit emotional because I didn't want him to leave me. It's quite scary being on your own in that situation. Even though you're in a hospital, you still feel like you're by yourself because there's nobody around that knows you. So he was allowed back at 9 o'clock in the morning, and my sister, I've only got one sister, she's older than me, she's 3 years older than me, she was my other birthing partner. So both of them came to the hospital at 9 o'clock on the dot. My sister made sure that they were both there. She dragged Danny out of bed. Joking. I think he was up and ready, surprisingly. But they came back to the hospital at 9 o'clock in the morning, and my contractions, I think at that point I got checked and I was still 4 centimetres. I didn't really lie down in the bed, I didn't sit down, I was pacing around, but trying my best to do everything that I could do to keep things moving, move things a bit quicker. And this carried on all day. I didn't sit down, I was pacing around the bed. Them two had me in absolute stitches, in hysterics all day. They're so funny when they're together. And then I got checked again. I think it was just about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I was 5 centimetres. So it took me all that time to go up 1 centimetre. So the midwives told me that I couldn't go up to delivery until I was 6 centimetres. And I still had another centimetre to go. We didn't know how long it was going to take because obviously I was obviously dilating very slowly. Even though I was doing everything in my power to help with things, to move them along, nothing was really pushing this baby in any sort of direction or very quickly. She wasn't in any kind of rush. So I told them to go home. This was about 4 o'clock. My sister's got 2 little ones. They were finishing in school. I told Danny to come home. We've got a dog as well. So I said, go home, sort the dog out, get yourself something to eat, a bath, try and get some sleep, and I'll give you a call if anything sort of happens where you can come back and I'll go up to delivery. So I carried on just contracting, doing everything that I've been doing all along. And then I think they checked me at 9 o'clock. I was still 5 centimetres. The shift was swapping over at the shift was swapping over. The midwives were rotating and finishing shift at 11:30. They come round just before that to see if everything was okay, just to tell me that they were finishing. And I begged them while they were there, please, 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 just please examine me one last time before you finish. Fingers crossed everything has happened. Something's happened. I don't know what I was expecting. I just wanted somebody to tell me something that had moved along. And lo and behold, I was 6 centimetres. So they told me that I could go up to delivery. They came and got me a little wheelchair, took me up to delivery with all my bags. I rung Danny and told them that I was up at delivery and that they could come back. I got up to my room and I was looked after by some lovely midwives. All the midwives along the journey were lovely. and they put me on a monitor, checked baby's heartbeat. I think I had to stay on that for half an hour. So while I was on the monitor, I had a nice cup of coffee and some toast. And they said that they needed to check baby's heart rate was okay. If it wasn't, I'd have to stay on a monitor, which, excuse you. If it wasn't, I would have to stay on a monitor, which wasn't what I wanted. I couldn't think of anything worse than being confined to a bed. I dealt with my contractions by rocking, by moving around, leaning over something and rocking in that general direction. So I didn't want to be strapped to the bed, but thankfully everything was fine. Danny and my sister arrived back around 12, half 12, and I just remember her laughing when she came in the room because I was sat up on a bathing ball, having a cup of coffee, and they thought it was just ridiculous. They thought I was being absolutely ridiculous. I wasn't rolling around on the floor screaming. But my method, I didn't have a birthing plan. The only thing I remember for both of my labours, the only thing I wanted is calm. I wanted to keep calm, remain calm, because I believe the second you lose control, you can't claw it back. You can't get that control back. So I tried everything in my power to keep in control, keep calm, and sort of put a pain block in my head where if I was having a contraction, deal with them one at a time, push that pain back out of my head and get on with it. And that's what I tried to do. And then I think around 4 o'clock in the morning, I got checked again and I was 8 centimetres. So I wanted to get up and keep walking around. I was trying my best, and then I felt my waters go. And from that point, they kept saying, we're just waiting now we've just got another 2 centimetres to go. My waters had just gone. They were feeling hopeful. I started on the gas and air at this point. That was about 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. And then I think at 6 o'clock, I got checked again and I was 9 centimetres. And then this last centimetre, which lasted, she was born at 8:38, and that was the worst part of my labour, was that last 2.5 hours, that 1 centimetre to go, because all I wanted to do that whole time was push. I just wanted to start pushing, and they kept saying, you can't push, you're going to damage yourself, it's not good for baby, you need to, they tried to sit me on the toilet to have a wee, just doing all little things like this to try and help things move. And then eventually they checked me at 8 o'clock in the morning and said I was 10 centimetres. It was the happiest moment of my life. And I remember feeling quite overwhelmed with emotion, knowing my baby was going to be here shortly. Excited at the thought, a little bit scared of what was to come. And then they told me at 8:10 I could start pushing. And I think it took me from when they got everything together, obviously they get their birthing packs out and they get you ready, and I started pushing. I think I was pushing for about 20 minutes, and then she made her appearance, and it was the most amazing moment in my life. Nothing will ever touch the feeling of having these two. It's just a moment that you can't describe. It's indescribable. And the emotion and the love you feel straight away, it's like nothing else. So yeah, she was born at 8:38, and I remember saying to Danny, I watched my sister have my niece, and I remember her head came out to about here, and then they kept saying, now don't push, she's going to turn. And she turned herself. And I was stood to this side of my sister, and she turned and she was facing me and she was looking at me, even though she wasn't fully born. It was just the most surreal thing, but most amazing. And I kept saying to Danny, just wait for that bit, wait for that bit. It's amazing. You'll love it. You'll never forget that moment. And funnily enough, as she was being born, she came out to this part and they were telling me to just pant, don't push. And she was going to start turning herself. and the next minute she just shot out. She literally just forced her way out. She must have thought, now I know I've waited around far too long now, I'm just going to push myself into this world, and out she came. So Danny didn't actually get to see that part, but he did watch all the rest, as did my sister. They were both absolutely amazing. And then Danny cut the cord, we all had a few tears, and as I was breastfeeding, they put baby onto the breast straight away. And then I did tear, so I had to have stitches, and that for me, I will say, was probably worse than the labour. I had to have the gas in here all the way through the stitches. It was quite a bad tear, she said, and it was in not the easiest place to reach. It was quite far in. TMI, I do apologise, but that's why it was so bad. Otherwise I don't believe it would have been as bad as it was. So we just got all that bit out the way, and then I zonked. I fell asleep. I was that exhausted. I think when we worked out from the very first contraction all the way up to her being here and me holding her, it was 58.5 hours. And my God, they were a long 50.5 hours, but worth every single second. And obviously I would do it again, because I did do it again with Elliot. I'm going to try and attempt to film his labour and birth story a bit later on, if these two will go to sleep nicely for mummy tonight. I can sit down and film that for you. And his was not as long, a little bit quicker, definitely more exciting. Didn't keep us waiting, this one. He was in quite a rush. So definitely stick around for that video, which will be coming tomorrow. And please, if you enjoyed this video, please like it below. Please don't forget to subscribe, check out my other videos, and I will see you all in my next one. Bye everyone. Say bye. Bye bye.